going to cover the main topic I have told you. So the first topic is centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. Centenary syllable, okay, centenary. So you'll have to keep in the mind centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. This is related to basically history, and also this topic is related to polity. Okay, for example, UPSC General Studies paper 2. So you can see here centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. And friends, sorry, today I do not have pen tab because my pen tab is not working. So I will not able to write something, but I will try to here highlight the point. So you can see here centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. So what is the context? Do you know what is the meaning of centenary? Centenary means the 100 years. Okay, what is the context? President Ramnath Kovind inaugurated the centenary celebration of the Madras Legislative Council, and it now known as the Tamil Nadu Legislature. Okay, Tamil Nadu Legislature. Friends, the first elected legislature in the state, originally called the Madras Legislative Council. Madras Legislative Council was established in 1921. Established in 1921. Okay, 1921 under the Government of India Act 1919. What is the another name of Government of India Act 1919? Can you tell me what is the another name of Government of India Act 1919? Maybe we have discussed in previous classes also. Can you recall what is the another name of Government of India Act 1919? Devka, Deji, Shobhan, Subhranshu, anyone? Can you tell me what is the another name? Montesquieu Chelmsford Reforms. Okay, Government of India Act 1919 is also known as Montesquieu Chelmsford Reforms because Montesquieu Chelmsford prepared the draft of Government of India Act 1919. And what was the another name of Indian Council Act 1909? Morley Minto Reforms. Okay, Morley Minto Reform is also known as 1909 Act. So I told you the Madras Legislative Assembly was established in 1921 under the Government of India Act 1919. Under the Government of India Act 1919, and the Madras Legislative Council came into existence with the Justice Party. Okay, and Justice Party, a precursor to the state's ruling DMK, Dravid Munir Kannegam, forming the first government of the Madras Presidency under British rule. Under British rule, friends, in a state, do you know about the state legislature? Uh, in a state legislature, there is two things. Okay, first of all, state legislative assembly. Okay, I am trying to write by the using mouse, and then there is state legislative council. Then there is state legislative council. Okay, so state legislative council is the upper house. Same as Raj Sabha. Then state legislative assembly. Okay, same as Lok Sabha. So you will have to keep in the mind because this topic is in frequent news. So you will have to learn. You will have to remember the points. And also, friends, Article 169 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so according to Article 169, or also you can say ki Legislative Council or Vidhan Parishad is the upper house in some states in India. That means ki in India, in 6 states, there is bicameral legislature. Tu bhi majakar. That means Telangana, UP, okay, Bihar, then there is Maharashtra, then there is Andhra Pradesh, and you will have to keep in the mind Karnataka. Okay, so in a 6 state, there is bicameral legislature. So according to Article 169, there is a provision, for abolition and formation of legislative council. So you'll have to keep in the mind because this is very, very important point. So what is the analysis portion? What is the establishment of MLC? Okay, what is the establishment of MLC? So let's understand. Okay, so the MLC was established in 1921. That means the Madras Legislative Council. Okay, Madras Legislative Council was established in 1921 and continue to function as the legislative assembly of the okay then Madras state after independence, and thereafter Tamil Nadu from 1969. Tamil Nadu from 1969. And after the first council election in 1920, the Justice Party formed the government. Okay, and the DMK precursor ruled the council in first, second, and fourth election. And the last and the fifth council saw the Justice Party running a minority government. Can you recall? Can you give me the one name? Okay, who is related to Justice Party? Anyone who was related to Justice Party? Who was related to Justice Party? Anyone? You know, the Justice Party, officially the South Indian Liberal Federation, was a political party in Madras Presidency of British India. Okay, and it was established on 20 November 1916 in Victoria Memorial Hall in Madras by Dr. C. Natesa Mudaliar and co-founded by T.M. Nair. Okay, there was P. Thyagar Roy Sethi. So you have to keep in the mind because this is very, very important. Okay, because maybe UPSC can ask because this topic is in news and there is also related to centenary. That means the 100 years of Madras Legislative Council. So please, friends, okay, try to recall, try to learn, try to understand. And if you have any problem, feel free to ask. Okay, don't hesitate. If you have any problem, you can ask. So, friends, we have discussed, okay, related to establishment of Madras Legislative Council established in 1921 and continue to function as the Legislative Council of then Madras State, okay. And after the first council election in 1920, the Justice Party formed the government and it was inaugurated. Madras Legislative Council was inaugurated by Prince Arthur, okay, Duke of Connaught and uncle of George V, Emperor of England, on 12 January 1921. On 12 January 1921. Okay, so this is very, very important. So we have discussed. And friend, you'll have to keep in the mind who was the first president or chairperson of the Madras Legislative Council. P. Rajgopalachari was the first chairperson, okay, of Legislative Council. That means the Madras Legislative Council. Madras Legislative Council. Then, friends, how is the largest gathering? So we have to discuss how, okay, Madras Legislative Council was the largest gathering. So let's discuss. Madras Legislative Council was the largest gathering in okay, largest gathering of its kind in India and constituted with 127 members. How many? 127 members in 1921. 127 members in 1921. Okay, how many? 127. So you'll have to keep in the mind. Okay, 127 members. 127 members in 1921. Okay, and friends, also you can say here, which included a total of 98 elected representative. 98, okay, was elective. Uh, 98 was elected representative. 98 was elected representative who were given a fixed term of 3 years to work for the people. Term, what was the term? Term was 3 years. Okay, 3 years. And friends, the elected body would meet at Fort St. George. Would meet at Fort, okay, St. George. You will have to keep in the mind Fort, okay, St. George. George. Meeting place was Fort St. George. Oh, so what was the Fort St. George? Do you have any facts, okay, related to Fort St. George? Anyone? Do you have anyone? Do you have any points related to Fort St. George? Devika, Deji, Shobhan, Subransu.
No, sir.
Okay, no problem. So Fort St. George was historically known as the White Town, okay, known as the White Town, and was the first British fortress constructed in India. So you'll have to keep in the mind, Fort St. George was historically known as a White Town, and it was the first British fortress constructed in India, and it was founded in 1639. It was founded in 16, okay, 39, 1639. So you'll have to keep in the mind, St. Fort George, okay, was founded in 1639, and in Madras before its change in nomenclature to Chennai. And the St. Fort currently houses the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly, a church, a museum, and other official buildings. So please keep in the mind, Fort St. George, okay, is the Persian Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly. So what was the, also you can say, achievement, or what was the Madras Legislative, okay, Council achieved key milestone in its history? So let's discuss one by one. So first of all, friends, the House had passed several landmark legislation like the in April 1921. In April, okay, 1921, the Legislative Council adopted the removal of sex disqualification on women for the franchise, which removed the gender restriction on voting, and as well as enabling the possibility of women becoming elected member. Okay, so this was the first, also you can say, landmark legislation by the Madras Legislative Council. Then in 1927, okay, Muthu Lakshmi Reddy, the well-known medical practitioner and social activist, became the first woman member of the council, and in no time became the deputy president of the Madras Legislative Council. Who? Muthu Lakshmi Reddy. And Hindu Religious Endowment Act 1926. In 1926, Madras Legislative Council passed Hindu Religious Endowment Act, and it took over the management and, okay, administration of Hindu temples in the province, and established board appointed by the government. Then abolition of the Devdasi system in 1947, okay, and it gave Devdasi the legal right to marry and made it illegal to dedicate girls to Hindu temple. Okay, so you'll have to keep in the mind. Then in July 1947, the national flag of India, okay, which was designed by anyone? Do you know? National flag of India was designed by who? Designed the national flag of India? No one. Guys, you are preparing for UPSC, and this is the basic facts. Okay, not only for aspirants, this is also important for common people. Who was the designer of the national India? That means the flag of India.
Sir, Pingali, Pingali Bhimke.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Very good, Shubhranshu. Very good. So in July 1947, the national flag of India, which was designed by the Pingali Venkaiah and was first adopted in its present form during a meeting of the Constituent Assembly held on 22nd July 1947, and barely 1 month before India's independence from the British on 15th August 1947. And the first ever flag flown after the independence is also stored in the third floor of a museum premises inside the St. Fort George complex. Okay, so please keep in the mind, this is very important. So we have discussed about the centenary celebration of Madras Legislative Council. Okay, so in this topic you will have to study, okay, for State Legislative Council, State Legislative Assembly, then Article 169, Article 170. So this is very important. Then what is the process of formation and what is the process of abolition of the State Legislative Council? So please keep in the mind, in how many states of India has the bicameral legislature. So this is very important. So do you have any doubt related to this topic, or is it clear? Please tell me. You can also, okay, comment, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's discuss the next topic, which is very, very important. Okay. NCPCR releases report on education of children in minority communities. In minority communities. Okay. So this topic is related to polity and governance. And what is the context? So the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that means NCPCR stands for the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Okay, so the NCPCR has released a report. What is the report? The impact of exemption under Article 15 Clause 5 with regards to Article 21A of the Constitution of India on education, okay, of children in minority communities. And the report assessed minority schools in the country. Okay, so please keep in the mind. So you'll have to read about Article 15, okay, Clause 5. Article 15, Clause 5. Then Article 21A. Article 21A is right to education. It was added by 86 Constitution Amendment Act. So you'll have to keep in the mind. This is very, very important. Okay. So what are the key findings of the report? What are the key findings of the report? Let's discuss the key finding of the report. According to this report, many children who are enrolled in these institutions or school were not able to enjoy the entitlements that other children are enjoying because the institution they are studying in, okay, is exempted and is enjoying the rights of minority institution, rights of minority institution. So according to NCPCR report, many children who are enrolled, okay, in these institutions or schools, that means the minority institution, were not able to enjoy the entitlements. Okay, so please keep in the mind. And only 4.18% of total students receive benefits such as free trips, free uniforms and books, scholarships, okay, from school. Only 4.18%. So this data is very, very important. You can use in your essay. You can use in your mains writing. Okay. And the commission has also found surge in the number of schools applying for minority status certificate after the 93rd amendment was brought in, with more than 85% school of the total school securing the certificate in the year 2005, 9 and later. Okay, so that means various schools wants the certificate of minority institution. Okay, because according to Article 29 or 30, so minority, okay, has the powers to manage their institution, okay, manage their educational institution. So you'll have to keep in the mind. So this is very, very important. Okay, so we have discussed the key finding of the report. There is also detrimental effects of the exemption. What is the detrimental effects of the exemption? Let's discuss one by one. So first, cocoons populated by elites. Cocoons populated by elites. So you'll have to keep in the mind what is the meaning. On the one hand, there are schools, mostly Christian missionary school, okay, which are admitting only a certain class of students and leaving underprivileged children out of the system, out of the system. Then there is backwardness, okay. So other type of minority school, in particular madrasa, okay, have become ghettos of underprivileged students languishing in backwardness. And the commission, okay, has said that students in madrasa which do not offer a secular course along with religious studies such as the science have fallen behind and feel a sense of alienation and inferiority when they leave school. That means, if, for example, if any student, okay, study in madrasa and they are not getting the, you can say, knowledge related to science or maths, that means after the completion of the education, they feel aligned, okay, they feel alienation. So you have to keep in the mind. So what is the madrasa? Also you can say what is the condition of madrasa according to the report. According to the report, there are three kinds of madrasa in the country. According to the report, there are three kinds of madrasa in the country. So first is recognized madrasa. First is recognized madrasa, which are registered and impart both religious as well as secular education. Okay, recognized madrasa means which are registered and impart religious as well as secular education. Then second is unrecognized madrasa. What is the meaning of unrecognized madrasa? Which have sorry, which have been found deficient for registration by state government, as secular education is not imparted, or other factors like lack of infrastructure. Then there is unmapped madrasa. Okay, unmapped madrasa, which have never applied for registration, which have never applied for registration, is known as unmapped madrasa, which known as unmapped madrasa. Please keep in the mind, this is very, very important. Okay. So what is the major recommendation of the NCPCR reports? Let's discuss. Under the purview of RT, that means the right to education. Okay. And also you can see here, you can understand minority school are exempt from implementing the right to education policy and do not fall under the government Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. And NCPCR has recommended that these schools be brought under the right to education and Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. So what is the right to education? Let's discuss what is the right to education. This Right to Education Act 2009, okay, for ensuring free and compulsory quality education to children. And the Right to Education Act 2009 provides for norms pertaining to basic minimum infrastructure, number of teachers, books, uniform, midday meal, okay, extra benefits that students in minority schools have not been receiving. And in 2014, the Pramati judgment made the entire Right to Education Act non-applicable on minority school. Okay, minority school. Friends, the state government need to introduce strict guidelines on the minimum percentage of minority student that these schools need to admit, as well as look at the proportion of school run by particular minority community in relation to the size of the population living in the state before the school is awarded recognition. Awarded recognition. So what are the minority institution? What are the minority institution? Okay, because this is very, very important. Maybe UPSC can ask what is the, also you'll have to keep in the mind what is the, okay, minority institution. So let's discuss section 2G. Okay, section I'm not able to write. Okay, but keep in the mind section 2 clause G, section 2 clause G. Okay, section 2 clause G of the National Commission for Minority Education Institution Act. Okay, section 2 clause G of the National Commission for Minority Education Institution Act. A minority institution means a college or institution, okay, established or maintained by a person or group of person from amongst the minority. From amongst the minority. So what is minority institution? A minority institution means a college or institution, okay, not university, only college or institution, okay, established or maintained by a person or a group of person from amongst the minority. So according to NCPCR report, you can see here Christian compromise 11.54% of the minority population, but run 71.96% minority school. Muslim compromise 69.8% of, okay, of the minority population, but run 22.7% of the school. Sikh compromise 9.78% minority population and run 1.54 okay, percent school. Buddhist comprise 3.83% minority population and run 0.48% school. And Jain comprise 1.9% of the minority population and run 1.56% of the school. School means minority schools. Okay. So here is a question: how a minority is determined? How a minority is determined? Friends, minority is to be determined only by reference to the demography of the state and not by taking into consideration the population of the country as a whole. Okay, so you'll have to keep in the mind. Sorry, a minority is to be determined only by reference to the demography of the state and not by taking into consideration the population of the country as whole. So there is also a landmark judgment regarding, okay, minority institution. So I'm going to give you the name. So you can see here, the landmark judgment regarding minority institutions. You will have to keep in the mind. TMA Pi Foundation versus State of Karnataka. Okay, Kerala Education Bill. Then case of Ahmedabad St. Xavier College. Okay, St. Xavier College. And friends, according to Article 30, Article 30 provides two rights. So first, to establish and administer educational institution to the linguistic or religious minorities. Because in Indian Constitution, there is two types of minorities: linguistic minorities and religious minorities. And basically, there are six types of religious minorities. Okay, so you will have to keep in the mind. So six type of religious minorities. What is the name of the minorities? So Muslim, okay, Sikh, Christian, Buddhist, Jain, Zoroastrian. So these are the six types of minority, and these are religious minorities. But in India, okay, there's also linguistic minorities. Okay, so Article 30 provides two rights. So first, to establish and to administer educational institution to the linguistic or religious minorities. And the expression establish and administer are to be read, okay, conjunctively. It means that to claim the benefit of Article 30 Clause 1, and the community must show that it is a linguistic or religious minority and that the institution was established by it to claim the right to administer it. That means the first, right to establishment, and second, right to administer. Okay, so please keep in the mind. So what is the constitutional provision related to minority? What is the constitutional provision related to minority? So the Constitution of India provides for the cultural and educational rights of the minorities under Article 19, 29 and 30. Under Article 29 and 30. So Article 29, okay, says general protection to the minorities to conserve their language. It protects the right only of the Indian citizen. And Article 30 deals explicitly with the rights of the minorities to establish institution of their choice. Okay, their choice. So please keep in the mind. So we have discussed about the NCPCR, okay, reports, that means the National Commission for Protection of Child reports. So this is very important. So please keep in the mind. Do you have any doubt? Okay, if you have any doubt, feel free to ask. Please tell me. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Devka?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Yeah. Now, we'll have to discuss the next topic, and the next topic is Parliament passes General Insurance Amendment Bill. Okay. For in the last topic, you'll have to study about the minorities. I gave you the basic concept related to minorities. Also, okay, minorities, and also we have discussed about the articles, Article 29, 30. So please keep in the mind. That means the fundamental right, okay, is very important for UPSC, because if you, okay, will go through the previous year question, you will get one or two questions every year from fundamental rights. That means the part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6 is very important for your polity paper. Okay, and also important for your mains paper, because every times part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6 is in frequent news. So that means these topics are the very important. So please read about fundamental rights. If you have knowledge, please revise, because revision is the key of the success. Okay, so now let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is Parliament passes General Insurance Amendment Bill. This is related to the economy. So what is the context? The Parliament passed the General Insurance Business Amendment Bill 2021, and which removes the condition that the central government should hold 51% shareholding in state-owned general insurance company. Okay, so that means कि according to General Insurance Business Amendment Bill 2021, okay, central government should not hold, or also you can say there is no it, okay, it is not compulsory to hold 51% shareholding in state on general insurance companies. Okay, so please keep in the mind what is the background. The General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021 was introduced in Lok Sabha on 30th July 2020. Yes, 30th July 2021. And the bill seeks to amend the General Insurance Business Act 1972. So, okay, it is amendment in 1972 Act. It is amendment in 1972 Act. And the Act was subsequently amendment in 2002 to transfer the control of these four subsidiaries company from General Insurance Company to the central government, and thereby making them independent companies. And friends, since 2001, General Insurance Company exclusively undertakes insurance business, reinsurance business. So first of all, we should understand what is the General Insurance Business Nationalization Act 1972. Okay, so 1972 Act set up the General Insurance Corporation of India, that means ki GIC, and the business of General Insurance Corporation of India, or also you can say ki business of the company nationalized under the Act were restructuring four subsidiaries company of General Insurance Corporation. First, National Insurance. Second, New India Assurance. Third, Oriental Insurance. Fourth, United India Insurance. United India Insurance. Okay. So now, how will this bill help to privatize the insurance sector? That means 2021 bill. How, okay, will this bill help to privatize the insurance sector? The 1972 Act was enacted to nationalize all private companies undertaking general insurance business in India, and the present bill seeks to provide for a greater private sector participation in the public sector insurance companies regulated under the Act. So we should also understand the key feature of the 2021 bill. Okay, what is the key feature of the bill? Let's discuss. So first of all, friends, okay, we should talk about government shareholding threshold. Okay, government shareholding. We should talk about the government shareholding. In a previous, that means the previous provision, the Act requires that shareholding of the central government in the specific insurer. Okay, that means the we have discussed the four companies: National Insurance, New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance, United India Insurance. Okay, must be at least 51%. That means the previous provision was, that means the central government, okay, should hold 51%, okay, share, also you can say 51% stake. But the new bill, okay, remove this provision. Okay, so please keep in the mind. And friends, what is the change in the definition of general insurance business? There is also change in definition of general insurance business. So first of all, let's discuss the previous provision. Okay, what was the definition related to previous provision? So the Act defines general insurance business as fire, marine, or miscellaneous insurance business, and it excludes capital redemption and annuity from certain business from the definition. Capital redemption insurance involves payment of a sum of money on a specific date by the insurer after the beneficiary pays premium periodically. Okay. And under annuity, certain insurance, the insurer pays the beneficiary over a period of time. But according to 2021 bill, and the bill removes this definition and instead refers to the definition by the Insurance Act 1938. And under the Insurance Act, capital redemption and annuity certain and included with the general insurance business. So, for example, general insurance business, okay, presently include fire, marine, miscellaneous insurance businesses, also capital redemption and annuity. Okay. And there is also provision related to transfer of control from the government. Okay, transfer of control from the government. So let's discuss. And the bill, that was the 2021 bill, provide that the act will not apply to the specific insurer from the date on which the central government, okay, relinquishes control of the insurer. Control means, friend, control means the power to appoint a majority of directors of a specific insurer or to have power over its management or policy decision. There's also liabilities of director. Okay, so according to, you can say, 2021 bill, according to 2021 bill, that means the General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021, there's liabilities of the director. So the bill specifies that a director of a specified insurer who is not a whole-time director will be held liable only for a certain act, and these includes acts which have been committed with his knowledge, attributable through board process, then with his consent or convenience, or where he had not acted, okay, diligently. Then, friend, who will get empowered in this bill? This is very, very important topic, and various scholars, okay, talks about who will get empowered in this bill. So, according to the bill or according to the act, empowers the central government to notify the terms and conditions of services of employees of the specified insurer. Then the bill provides that schemes formulated by the central government in this regard will be deemed to have been adopted by the insurer. Then board of directors of the insurer may change these schemes or frame new policies. And further, power of the central government under such schemes will be transferred to the board of directors of the insurer. So that means ki basically powers, okay, that means ki board of director will have powers related to insurance. Okay, so you'll have to keep in the mind. So there is also impact of coronavirus on insurance sector in India. We have discussed maybe in any previous classes related to COVID. Okay, so what is the, also you can say ki coronavirus impact on insurance sector in India? Can you tell me? Please think and try to, okay, reply. What is the impact of coronavirus on insurance sector? Anyone? No one. Friends, please try to participate. Subhranshu, what is the impact of coronavirus on insurance sector?
Because sir, I think there is no bank operating during Corona era, so you can't apply for insurance and all.
Okay. Shobhan, Devika, okay, no problem. I'm going to tell you. Friends, I will give you only one or two points, okay? But you'll have to read about. We have discussed. about the coronavirus maybe. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic changed the landscape of the Indian insurance industry in a big way. The changes are expected not to only increase the insurance penetration rate in the country, but also bring a conscious shift in the insurance product mix. Okay, so you'll have to keep in the mind. And there's also government schemes promoting insurance sector. For example, Pradhan Mantri, uh, Jan Aushadhi Yojana is an entitlement based scheme under the Ayushman Bharat and is fully funded by the government. And also you can say Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat Yojana, okay, and this is the largest health assurance scheme in the world and aims at providing a health cover of 5 lakh rupees per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization to over 107 million vulnerable families, approximately 500 million beneficiaries. Okay, so now let's discuss how significant is this bill. That means how General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021 is significant. Let's discuss. Okay. So first of all, friends, it will boost, or also you can say it will boost to privatization. It will boost to privatization. That means the General Insurance Amendment Bill aims to promote a greater deal of private sector participation in insurance company present in the public sector. Then increase public participation. Increase public participation. Okay, increase public participation. So bill is going to increase public participation, which is only going to help by bringing more resources. Then increase foreign investment. Okay, increase foreign investment. So the passing of the Insurance Amendment Bill 2021, the foreign investment limit in the insurance sector will be raised to 74%. Will be raised to 74%. Okay. And in the last trend, I can say this act was put into play to nationalize all the private companies that were undertaking general insurance in India. And the next step forward for this bill and the public sector lies in the bill becoming an act after it is gazetted. And after that, all the above mentioned changes will be set into place and privatization can be taken for public sector insurer. Okay, once more. So please keep in the mind, we have talked about the new bill. Okay, we have talked about the provision. Then we have talked about the significant. Okay, we have talked about the previous act, also previous bill. Okay, so now let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is in a world first South Africa grants patent to an artificial intelligence system. We have discussed about the artificial intelligence system in any previous classes. Okay, so what is the context? And basically, friends, this topic is related to science and technology. Okay, so South Africa Patent Office, the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, granted the patent to a food container based on fractal geometry invented by Dabus, Dabus, by Dabus. Okay, so please keep in the mind. So what is the background? The patent application for listing Dabus as the inventor was filed in patent office of different countries, including Australia, United States of America, Europe, and South Africa. And the application was rejected by the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the European Patent Office in the formal examination phase. And they give three reasons. Okay, they give three reasons. So first, only human inventors. So their respective patent laws only provide for human inventor, okay, not for artificial intelligence. Then lack of mental conception. So ideas for the purpose of patents require the element of mental conception. Such conception is only present in a human mind and not in artificial intelligence. Okay, please keep in the mind. Then rights issue. Furthermore, inventorship comes with the rights which artificial intelligence is not legally capable of possessing. Okay, so basically the United States Patent and Trademark Office and European Patent Office, okay, rejected the patent application. Okay, so you'll have to keep in the mind. And friends, also you can say at last, only South Africa granted the patent to Dabus as an inventor for a food container based on fractal geometry. So here's a question. What is the question? Question is that what is the Dabus? DABUS. What is the meaning of Dabus? DABUS stands for Device for the Autonomous Boots. Okay, trapping of unified science, or DABUS is an artificial intelligence system. So what is DABUS? DABUS is an artificial intelligence system, and it was created by Stephen Thaler. Okay, it was created by Stephen Thaler or Saleh. And friends, it stimulates human brainstorming and creates new invention. And Dabus is a particular type of artificial intelligence. So basically, you'll have to keep in the mind Dabus is a artificial intelligence, okay, which is granted also you can say patent in South Africa, and it is often referred to as creativity machine because they are capable of independent and complex functioning. Everyday artificial intelligence, okay, like Siri. What is the Siri? The voice of Apple's iPhone. The voice of Apple's iPhone. So please keep in the mind. Yes, Subhranshu.
Sir, third point I couldn't understand that brainstorming and creates new invention. What does that mean?
I did not get your point. Please.
Sir, third point I could not understand, sir. Third point. It
It
says
it
it stimulates human brainstorming and creates new
okay.
inventions.
Okay. So for example, we can say Dabus is an artificial intelligence, or basically it is a software. Okay, and it works. You can say on chain blocking, and also it works on code. Okay, there's a coding. It works on coding. So basically it is artificial intelligence, and it can also, for example, robot. Okay, uh, do you know now about the robot can give you the water, robot can also talk to each other. So basically Dabus is a software, and it creates also you can say new idea, it creates a new invention. Okay, any doubt?
No, sir. A
Okay.
brainstorming, human
Brain
brainstorming means?
okay, brainstorming means say thinking, and also you can say for example, if I will have to discover a new idea, so first of all I will have to okay do brainstorming. That means I will think, and for example Dabus will analyze the data, and after that they create a new you can say a new uh, study, and also they create a new invention. So brainstorming means thinking about anything which will be discovered by humans, and also which will be discovered by the software, because software can easily read or analyzes the data. Okay.
Yes, sir. Means moreover, you can say that it is an artificial intelligence
Yeah.
which can
Yes.
create something of its own.
Yes, very
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Yeah. So we have discussed basically Dabus is a artificial intelligence, and it creates a new idea, okay, by on. And also friends the system of Dabus differs from everyday artificial intelligence like Siri is the voice of Apple's phone. Okay, so please keep in the mind, this is very important. Now friends, let's discuss what are the creativity machine. What are the creativity machine, because this is very important. So let's discuss. Creativity machine have the capability to process and critically analyze data and learning from it. Okay, learning from it. And this process is called machine learning. This process is called machine learning. If you okay know about the machine learning, and that means if you comes from the computer background, you can easily understand the machine learning is basically, for example, if I had a mistake in past, and from the past, if I will learn a new things, that means तो ऑल्सो कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल बेसिकली अगर हम कोई एक गलती करते हैं, हमारे पास गलती का डाटा है, उसे हम अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं, उसे कुछ नया करते हैं, ठीक है। तो मशीन लर्निंग में भी क्या होता है कि मशीन लर्निंग भी बेसिकली जो पास्ट के जो डाटा है उसको स्टडी करता है, एनालाइज करता है, एंड आफ्टर दैट दे क्रिएट्स अ न्यू आइडिया, एंड आफ्टर दैट दे क्रिएट्स अ न्यू कोड। ओके, So please keep in the mind. And after the occurrence of the machine learning phase, the machine is able to autonomously create without human intervention. Okay, create without human intervention. So we have discussed about the creativity machine. So friends, here's the one question. Okay, is why South Africa decision received backlash? So let's discuss. Okay, why South Africa decision is received backlash? Uh, First of all, South Africa decision to grant patent had received widespread backlash from intellectual property experts, which argued that it is unlawful. Okay, it is unlawful. So you'll have to keep in the mind. So as per the law, the decision was incorrect. Okay, as artificial intelligence lacks the necessary legal standing to qualify as an inventor, then it is less reliable commission. Okay, it is less reliable commission. So this approval was simply an oversight on the part of the commission, and which has been known in the past to be less than reliable. Then no formal examination in the process. No formal examination in the process. So moreover, this is clearly an indictment of the country's patent procedure, which currently only consists of a formal examination step. Okay. So here's the okay. One point. What is artificial intelligence? Anyone? Can you tell me what is artificial intelligence? Anyone?
So, um, the machines doing work without human intelligence.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Yes. Yes. So artificial intelligence is simply the science and engineering of making intelligent machine, especially intelligent computer programs, and it is related to the similar task of using computers to understand human intelligence. Human intelligence. Okay. So let's discuss the few points related to artificial intelligence in India, because maybe UPSC can ask, or also state service okay commission may ask. So artificial intelligence also, you can say the last half decade have witnessed significant uptake of artificial intelligence focused innovation in India, with over 4,000 artificial intelligence patents being filed during the period, and this is 6 times higher than the figure of 2011 2015. And friends, on a global front, India was ranked 8 in the top 10 countries by artificial intelligence patent families. Okay, and prior to 2002, the country had no artificial intelligence related patent filing. So you'll have to keep in the mind. So what is the key artificial intelligence initiative of Indian government? Let's discuss one by one. So first, United States India Artificial Initiative. So the Indo-US Science and Technology Forum launched the US India Artificial Intelligence Initiative in March 2021. So what is the aim of US India Artificial Intelligence Initiative? The aim is to foster artificial intelligence innovation by sharing ideas and experiences, identifying new opportunities in research and development, and bilateral collaboration. Then second, responsible artificial intelligence for youth. Let's discuss what is responsible artificial intelligence for youth. So it is a national program for government school to empower the young generation to become artificial intelligence ready and reduce the skill gap in India. And it was established by the National E-Governance Division of Ministry of Information and Technology. Okay, and the aim of responsible artificial intelligence for youth is to help the student develop a new age tech mindset and relevant skill set. Then there is a MCA 3.01 portal. Okay, MCA 3.01 portal, 0 MCA 3.0 portal. Okay, and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs recently launched a new version of its portal, version 3.0 0 MCA 21. and which will leverage data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and to simplify regulatory filings of for companies. Then there is artificial intelligence portal. Okay, artificial intelligence portal and dedicated artificial intelligence portal. Okay, India allies slated as a central hub for everything, and the portal will act as a one-stop shop for all artificial intelligence related developments and initiative in India. And artificial intelligence portal was okay, jointly developed by MITI means Ministry of Information and Technology and NASCOM in June 2020. Then promoting artificial intelligence in school. So basically, friends, NCRT is preparing a new national curriculum framework for school education in pursuance of the National Education Policy 2020, and this will also aim at introducing a basic course on artificial intelligence at the secondary level, as the secondary level. Okay, so in last, friends, I can say with the patent approval, South Africa wants to increase innovation to solve its socio-economical issue, and given the policy environment and the vast potential of artificial intelligence, the gathering of the patent makes sense. Okay, and also India should focus on new tools. India okay should focus on new research and development in artificial intelligence sector. Okay, so we have talked about this topic in a world first. South Africa grants patent to an artificial intelligence system. So is it clear, or do you have any problem? Please tell me.
Clear, sir.
Okay. So please give me a 5 minute break. Okay, I'll join within 5 minutes. Please wait. Don't go. Now let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is Open Network for Digital Commerce. That means the ONDC initiative. ONDC initiative. Okay. So basically, this topic is very important for Philippines and related to economy, and also you can say कि this topic is in frequent news and it is also related to science and tech. So what is the context? The Department of Industrial Development and Internal Trade, that means the DP, okay, IIT, has appointed an advisory committee for its open network for digital, okay, commerce project aimed at curbing digital sovereignty, okay, digital sovereignty. So what is ONDC? ONDC means Open Network for Digital Commerce. So let's discuss what is ONDC. So basically, friends, the ONDC aim is at making e-commerce process open source and thus creating a platform that can be used by all online retailers. All online retailers. And this initiative, that basically Open Network for Digital Commerce, is globally first of its kind initiative that aims to democratize digital commerce, moving it from from a platform centric model to an open network. Open network means for everyone. Okay, everyone can use. Okay, and what is the platform? So as a UPI, okay, as a UPI, please keep in the mind, is the is to the digital payment domain, okay, unified payment interface, UPI means. And ONDC is to be e-commerce in India. E-commerce in India. Okay, e-commerce in India. So conduct of ONDC. So there will be data sharing, there is a privacy, then there will be data protection bill. So let's discuss the conduct of ONDC. So first will be data sharing. So ONDC shall not mandate sharing of any transaction level data by participants with open network digital commerce. Then friends, for privacy, ONDC will work with its participants to publish aggregate metrics on network performance without compromising on confidentiality and privacy. Then friends, there is a data protection bill we have discussed, in previous classes. And ONDC, Open Network Digital Commerce, will be compliant with Information Technology Act 2000 and designed for compliance with the emerging Personal Data Protection Bill. Okay, so please keep in the mind. So what will be the significance of ONDC? So first of all, friends, ONDC will enable, ONDC will enable buyers and sellers to be
Yes,
digitally
conduct
visible.
of ONDC.
Yeah, Devkat. Any problem?
No, so sorry, sir. I didn't remember that my video and audio was on, so I'm really sorry.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So first of all, I told you that ONDC will enable buyers and sellers to be digitally visible and transact through an open network. And friends, ONDC is expected to digitize the entire value chain, standardize operation, promote inclusion of supplier, derive efficiency in logistics, and enhance value for consumers. And ONDC will empower merchants and consumers by breaking silos to form a single network to drive innovation and scale, transforming all businesses from retail goods, food to mobility. What is the example of you can say ONDC? For example, while the operating system of Apple's iPhone iOS is closed source, meaning it cannot be legally modified or reverse engineered. And Google's Android operating system is open source. Android is open source, and therefore it is possible by smartphone manufacturers such as Samsung, Xiaomi, OnePlus, and they can modify it for their hardware. They can modify it for their hardware. So please keep in the mind. So we have discussed about the open network for digital commerce. This is important topic for your prelims examination, so please keep in the mind. Now, the next topic is related to revising. Okay, Arunachal Pradesh scheduled tribes. Let's discuss. And basically, this topic is related to polity and governance. And context is friends. Recently, Rajya Sabha passed the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2021, and the bill seeks to amend the nomenclature of certain tribes from Arunachal Pradesh mentioned in the Constitution. That means the Scheduled Tribes Order 1950. So what does the bill amend? The bill seeks to modify, okay, the bill seeks to modify Part 18 of the schedule to the Constitution, okay, Order 1950, and Part 18, okay, list 16 tribes of Arunachal Pradesh in order: Abor, Eka, okay, Apatani, Nisi, Galong, Khamti, Khova, Mismi, okay, Momba, Ani Naga tribes, then Sedruk, Pain, Singpho, Hurusu, Tagin, Khamba, and Adi. Okay, and the bill corrects the names of tribes spelled incorrectly and adds names of a few tribes that were either named, okay, ambiguously or had their parent group named only. So it makes 5 changes. So what will be the changes? Let's discuss one by one. So first, deleting Abode tribe at serial number 1 and changing Khamti at serial number 6 to Tai Khamti. This is very, very important. Okay, UPSC may ask a question on this topic, so please keep in the mind. Including Mismi Kaman, that means ki Miju Mismi, Idu Mismi, Taron, okay, Digaru Mismi at serial number 8 in the lieu of Mismi, including Mompa, Memba, Sartang, Sajolang at serial number 9 in place of Momba, replacing, okay, and in Naga tribes at serial number 10 with names of 4 tribes: Nokte, okay, Tangsa, Tutsa, and Wancho. Please keep in the mind this. Okay, these tribes are related to Arunachal Pradesh. So why is it significant? So indigenous nomenclature of tribes has been a long-standing demand in Arunachal Pradesh for 2 reasons. First, for the recognition of individual identity and to do away with ambiguity as a result of error in their names. And most of the names for tribes in the schedule were colonial interpretation. And the move is historic because now communities will be known by the name they identify with and not something that is imposed on them. Okay. So what is the related information that basically related to scheduled tribes? Because maybe UPSC or state service can ask related to scheduled tribes. So let's discuss the constitutional provision. Article 366, clause 25 of the Constitution refers to the scheduled tribe as those tribes who are scheduled in accordance with Article 342 of the Constitution. Article 342 of the Constitution. So we should understand what is Article 342. So Article 342 says that only those communities who have been declared as such by the President through an initial public notification or through a subsequent amending act of Parliament will be considered to be scheduled tribes, will be considered, okay, to be scheduled tribes. So please keep in the mind Article 342 talks about the scheduled tribes. Then Article 366 clause 25 also talks about the scheduled tribes. And the Constitution is silent about the criteria for specification of a community as a scheduled tribe. So that means in Constitution there is no mention about the criteria. What should be the criteria for scheduled tribes? There is, okay, no provision related to criteria for the scheduled tribes. Friends, there are certain scheduled tribes, that means 75 in a number, known as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. You will have to keep in the mind, in India, these 75 PVTG tribals, that means particularly vulnerable tribal groups, and who are characterized by pre-agricultural level of technology, stagnant or declining population, extremely low literacy, subsistence level of economy. For example, UPSC may ask a question, uh, okay, with reference to the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, which of the following is the character of the okay, particularly vulnerable tribal groups? First, pre-agricultural level of technology. Second, stagnant or declining population. Third, extremely low literacy. Fourth, subsistence level of economy. Option 1 and 2 only, option 1, 2, 4 only, option 1, 3, 4 only, option 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that means ki these types of okay question maybe UPSC asked, so you'll have to keep in the mind. And we have discussed about the constitutional provision, then also we have discussed okay the current portion related to scheduled tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, related to scheduled tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. So please keep in the mind, this is very, very important. Okay. Now let's discuss the next topic. If you have any problem, feel free to ask. Okay, you can raise your hand. So next question is Commission for Air Quality Management in the NCR National Capital Territory and Adjoining Areas Bill 2021. 2021. So let's discuss one by one. So first of all, this topic is related to environment, and the Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and Adjoining Areas Bill 2021 is set to be tabled in Parliament to replace earlier promulgated ordinance with some changes. So what is this? So the Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and Adjoining Area Bill 2021 aims to replace earlier promulgated ordinance with same changes, and the changes have been devised okay several rounds of negotiation with farmers of the region, and the farmers had raised concern of stiff okay penalties and possible jail terms for stubble burning. So the changes is friend, this criminalize stubble burning. Okay, according to new law, also you can say ki, according to new law, the bill has decriminalized the act of stubble burning and withdrawn the clause for possible jail time. Then, okay, this provision related to environment compensation fee. So the bill has provided for an environment compensation fee to be levied by on those who are found to be engaged in stubble burning, including farmers, And friends, new Commission for Environment Regulation. So the bill, that means the Commission for Air Quality Management in the NCR and Adjoining Bill 2021 will replace the Environment Pollution Authority or EPC, that means Environment Pollution okay Control Authority, with a commission having more powers. Okay, so there is also function of the newly proposed commission. What will be the function? Let's see. So function of the newly proposed commission. So first, coordination with state government. So the commission will coordinate the concerned state government of Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh as per provision of the bill for taking action by them. Then provision related to pollution control. So it includes planning and executing plans to prevent and control air pollution in NCR, and it will also provide a framework for identification of air pollutants, then collecting environment compensation fee. So collecting environment compensation fee, friends, the collection of such fee will be exclusively done by the commission. That means you will have to keep in the mind environment pollution okay control authority. So please keep in the mind. And friends, the next is identification of violators. Okay, identification of violators, please keep in the mind. And the commission will be in charge of identifying violators, monitoring factories and industries and any other polluting unit in the region, and further it will have the powers to shut down such unit. Then overruling directives of state government. Okay, overruling directives of state government. And the commission will also have the power to overrule directives issued by the state government in the region that may be in violation of pollution norms, research and development on air pollution in NCR, and the commission has this mandate to take preventive measures such as increasing plantation and addressing stubble burning, and it will have authority to issue direction on matters including inspection or regulation which will be binding on the concerned person or authority. So what is the significance of the bill? What is the significance of the bill? Let's discuss in a 2 points. First, EJ's penalty norms. So this bill, or also you can say ki in contrast with penalties and jail terms as proposed in original ordinance, the bill has decriminalized the act of stubble burning but kept alive the penalties in form of environment compensation fee. Then second, ensuring in uniform regulation across national capital region, and the power of the commission to overrule directives issued by the state government in the region that may be in violation of pollution norms will ensure uniform application of law throughout national capital region across 5 states. Okay, so please keep in the mind. So friends, there is also one topic is important. Okay, in this topic we should talk about graded response action plan, that means the GRAP. Okay, today I do not have pen tab, so I'm not able to write, but you will have to keep in the mind graded. Okay, GRAP. So graded action response action plan, GRAP. And graded action plan or response action plan was approved by the Supreme Court in 2016, and after consultation with Environmental Pollution Authority, and Environmental Pollution Control Authority coordinates with 13 different agencies in Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and Rajasthan to implement graded response action plan. And there is only emergency measures, so it works only as an emergency measure during winters when pollution level in the country shows very high, and it aims to tackle industrial, vehicular, and combustion emission when the air quality moves from poor to very poor as per National Air Quality Index. And if air quality reaches the severe plus stage, the response under graded response action plan includes extreme measures such as shutting down schools and implementing the odd even road space rationing scheme. Okay, so please keep in the mind, this is very, very important topic we have discussed. Now, let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is, friend, you can see here. Yeah, we have talked about the graded response plan. Okay, annual pursuit meteor shower. Okay, so let's discuss this topic is related to science and technology. So the Perseid meteor shower, which is an annual celestial event, is expected to reach its peak. So maybe we have discussed about this topic. Okay, so what are the meteor showers? So meteors are pieces of rock and ice released by the comets as they orbit their orbits around the sun. And when meteors fall toward Earth, the resistance causes the space to vibrate, and as meteorites pass through space, leave behind gases of bright gas, visible to observe and not to the rock itself. And meteor showers, on the other hand, are proven when the Earth passes through the debris is left by a comet or asteroid. And when a meteor arrives on Earth, it is called a meteoroid, and series of meteoroids, when they came together at the same time, is called meteor shower. Okay, please keep in the mind. And according to NASA, there are more than 30 rainstorms that occur each year and are visible on Earth. So please keep in the mind. So what is Perseid meteor shower? Let's discuss. So the Perseids are prolific types of meteor shower which are associated with the comet-shaped turtle, and the meteors are called Perseids as the point from which they appear to hail lie in the constellation Perseus. And the Perseid meteor shower will be visible in northern hemisphere and down to mid southern latitudes. You know about the Australoborealis, okay, and Borealis? Anyone? No one. There is Borealis and Australoborealis. Borealis in northern hemisphere, Australoborealis in southern hemisphere. Okay, so no problem. Please read about it. Okay, because these topic are related to Borealis. So also it is the incident. Okay, yeah, okay, incident, or you can say okay, incident related to universe. So friends, these meteors are caused due to tiny sand grain to pea-sized bits of dusty debris that strike the top Earth atmosphere roughly 130 kilometers up. And the debris has deposited the tail of the comet, swift turtle, and every year Earth passes through this region of the river of rubble around 17 July to okay 24th August. And faint pulses appear as teeny quick streaks. Okay, no need to read about it, but you will have to keep in the mind three things: what is meteor, what is comet, what is asteroids. Okay, you know, basically asteroids found between the Mars and Jupiter, because Jupiter is the biggest planet. Okay, and Jupiter has the, you can say ki, uh, okay, gravitational force. So basically, you can say ki due to the gravitational force, asteroids, okay, you can say asteroid flow between the Mars and the Jupiter orbit. So please keep in the mind, this is very, very important. Now let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is related to the exercise, because this is very, very important and it's in news. So you have to keep in the mind, and maybe UPSC can ask. Okay, so the topic is Maiden Al, okay, Mohed Al Hindi exercise, Al Hindi exercise. So what is the context? So recently the Al Mohed Al Hindi, two countries spanning between India and Saudi Arab, began on 12th August on the coast of Al Jubail. Okay, please keep in the mind. So coast of Al Jubail, Aljaubal. Okay, Al Jubail, Al Jubail in Saudi Arab. So what is the exercise? So this is the first ever naval exercise between both nation, that means India and Saudi Arab. And India's guided missile destroyer INS Kochi will, okay, participated in the exercise. And the joint naval exercise showed the growing defense and military cooperation between India and Saudi Arab. And the exercise is taking place due to rising tension in the Gulf region after the drone attack on a merchant tanker of Oman. And it will show as the reflection of growing cooperation between Saudi Arab and India. Saudi Arab and India. So what is the importance of India participation in bilateral exercise? Friends, it is an indication of the high level of trust and confidence among the member nation, and it is an important means of building confidence and an indication of the faith placed by India in another nation or group of member states. And it is a tool for projection of a nation's soft power, for example, culture, language, customs, belief, food habits, and lifestyle. So there's also other military exercise of India, for example, hand in hand with China, okay, Indo-China, Surya India, Nepal, Sampriti, Indo-Bangladesh, okay, Mitra Shakti, India, Sri Lanka, Imbax, India, Myanmar, Garud Shakti, India, Indonesia, then Indra, India, Russia, Ajay Warrior, India, United Kingdom, then Nomadic Elephant, India, Mongolia, then Simbex, Indian Navy and Singapore Navy, Nasim Al Bahar, Indian Navy, Oman Navy, Indian Air Force exercise, Garud, India and France, Indradhanush, India and United Kingdom, India and United Kingdom. Okay, so this is very, very important. We have discussed now. So is it clear, or do you have any doubt? Because this topic is related to prelims, so
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's discuss the next topic, and the next topic is IPCC assessment report released. IPCC assessment report released. So this is related to environment. So recently, the IPCC stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released the first part of the sixth assessment report, and the two remaining parts are expected to release next year. So what is the IPCC reports? That means what is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports? Okay, so the IPCC reports are created by three working group of scientists. Created by three working group of scientists. First, working group 1 deals with the scientific basis for climate change. Then working group 2 looks at the expected impacts, vulnerabilities, and adaptation issues. Working group 3 deals with the action that can be taken for combating climate change. And the title of the report is Climate Change 2021, the Physical Science Basis. Okay, what is the title? Title is the Climate Change 2021, the Physical Science Basis. And the assessment report are most widely accepted scientific opinion about the climate change, and they form the basis for government to form policy to tackle climate change. It also provides scientific foundation for international climate change negotiation. So what is the key finding of the sixth report? Let's discuss about the sixth report. What is the key finding? So first is related to impact of global warming. It is related to impact of global warming. Okay. So friends, global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius will be increased unless deep reduction in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases during the 21st century. So there is a chance of 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius will be increased. Then there will be, okay, net zero emission. The report talks about the net zero emission. It noted that global net zero by 2050 was the minimum required to keep the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Then report talks about the effect on monsoon. So the southwest monsoon has declined over the past few decades because of the increase of aerosol. But once this reduce, we will experience heavy monsoon rainfall. Then sea temperature. Okay, the report talks about the sea temperature. So the Indian Ocean, which includes the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, has warmed faster than the global average. Then surface temperature. So the sea surface temperature, also you can say the sea surface temperature of our Indian Ocean is likely to increase by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius when there is 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius global warming. And Earth's global surface temperature has gone up by around 1.1 degrees Celsius in comparison to the average in 1850 to 1900. And such a level has not been witnessed in, okay, you can say 1,25,000 years. Then rising sea level, the reports, okay, warns about the sea level, and the sea level to rise by 2 to 3 meters over the next 2000 years. Then precipitation and drought. So the report says increased frequency and intensity of the hot extremes, marine heat waves, and the heavy precipitation along with the agriculture and ecological drought. Then melting glacier. Okay, melting glacier. So intensification and variability of the global water cycle. Okay, and the carbon dioxide concentration. So carbon dioxide concentration, the report says the ocean and the land carbon sinks are expected to be less effective, and the world has already depleted 86% of its available carbon budget. 86% available carbon budget. So what is IPCC? Okay, we should know about the IPCC. Basically, friends, IPCC was set up in 1988. Okay, was set up in 1988 by the WMO, that means the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Program. So IPCC, IPCC, WMO plus UN EP. It was established by World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Environment Program in 1988. And the IPCC is an organization of government of the members of the United Nations or World Meteorological Organization. And the IPCC currently has 195 members. 195 members. 195 members. Okay. And the main objective of the IPCC is to provide scientific information to governments at all levels so that they can use it to develop climate policies. And IPCC does not engage in scientific research itself. Instead, ask scientists from around the world to go for all the relevant scientific literature that is related to climate change and draw up the logical conclusion. Logical conclusion. Okay, this is very, very important. So we have discussed about the IPCC assessment reports. Now let's discuss about the quality of life for elderly. Okay, index. Quality of life for elderly index. So recently, the Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister released the quality of life for elderly index. So the index was created by the Institute for Competitiveness at the request of Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. An index sheds light on issue which often not mention problem faced by the elderly. And friends, what is Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister? So basically, it is known as EACPN. So the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister is an unconstitutional, illegal, independent body set up to provide advice on economic and governmental matters in the Indian government, especially to the Prime Minister. Okay. And friends, the quality of life for elderly index has 4 pillars. Okay, please keep in the mind, has 4 pillars. Has 4 pillars. So first, financial well-being. Okay, you will have to keep in the mind. Okay, so first is financial well-being. Please keep in the mind, FW. Okay, financial well-being. Then social well-being. Second is SW. Okay, social well-being. Third is health system. Third is HS. Okay, health system. Fourth is income security. Fourth is friend income security. Please keep in the mind. Okay, fourth is income security. And the quality of life for elderly index also includes sub-pillars, economic empowerment, education attainment and employment, social status, physical security, basic health, psychological well-being, social security, and enabling environment. And this index broadens the way to understand the needs and opportunities of elderly population in India. And it goes far beyond the income support that often narrows policy thinking and debate about the needs of this age group. And the index highlights the highlights to investing in health, education, and employment for young people today. So what is the key highlight from the report? Let's discuss the key highlight of the report. So the share of elders as a percentage of the total population in the country is expected to increase from around 7.5% in 2001 to almost 12.5%, almost 12.5% by 2026, and surpass 19.5% by 2050. And the reports talks about the state-wise ranking. So Rajasthan and Himachal Pradesh. So please keep in the mind. Okay, RJ and HP, Rajasthan and Himachal Pradesh. Okay, are the top scoring region in aged and relatively aged states, respectively. And the aged states refer to states with an elderly population of more than 5 million, whereas relatively aged states refer to to states with an elderly population of less than 5 million. Chandigarh and Mizoram are the top scoring region in you can say union territories and northeast states category. So in union territory, in UT, TDG, Chandigarh, TDG, and in northeast, you will have to keep in the mind Mizoram, in northeast, Mizoram, Mizoram. So please keep in the mind. Then report talks about the smart work with pillars. So the health system pillar ranks the highest in the country and 66.97 in the whole of India, followed by 62.34 in social well-being. And financial well-being, look at 44.7 points, which is reduced by the low performance of 21 countries across the education, attainment, and employment pillar, reflecting the scope of environment. Countries have done very poorly in the income security column because more than half of the countries have points below the national average in income security, which is the lowest base of all pillars. Okay. So what is the global base? Okay. So 10 years of health aging, 2020 to 2030, 10 years of healthy aging have been approved by the 73rd World Health Assembly, decision making body. And the 2030 agenda for sustainable development wants no one left behind and ensure that the goals of sustainable development goals are met at all levels of society, all ages, with a particular focus on the most vulnerable, including elderly. Okay, so please keep in the mind, this is very important topic we have discussed. Now let's discuss about the next topic. And the next topic is inland vessels bill. This is not important, so please, but you'll have to read. You can read these slides. uh, so I will share with you. And the next topic is 36th meeting of the parliamentary committee on official language. तो नो नीड टू डिस्कस अबाउट, बस आपको ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज जो है आपका हमारा शेड्यूल 8, विच इज रिलेटेड टू ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज. So you'll have to read about official language. There is a 22 language. So please keep in the mind is official language. Basically schedule 8, and there is an amendment in schedule 8. So you'll have to keep in the mind 21st amendment, 71st amendment, then 92nd amendment. So please read about it. So these are the important topics. So we have discussed, and these few topics we'll discuss in upcoming week, or in our next week. So thank you so much for joining this class, all of you. So how is your class? If you have any suggestion, if you have any doubts, you can give me. If you have any feedback, please feel free to give me. And if you have any doubt, feel free to ask. And if you face any problem, you can send the mail, and I will try to reply as soon as possible.
Sir, types of madrasas.
Basically there is you can say 3 types of madrasa. For example, registered madrasa, then non-registered madrasa. So we have talked about you can say there is basically 3 types of madrasa. And recognized madrasa. So recognized madrasa, that means registered and impart both religious as well as secular education. That means for example, they study about the you can say Quran, and also they study about the science, math, and English. So that means
Yes, sir.
recognized madrasa.
Those are registered.
Yeah, registered.
Yes.
And unrecognized madrasa, which have been found deficient for registration, but they applied for registration. And as a secular education is not imparted, so please keep in the mind due to you can say lack of infrastructure. So
Yes, only
unrecognized,
Quran will be taught, nothing else.
yes. And there is unmapped madrasa which have never applied for registration. Okay, and they only teaches, you can say, religious things.
Sir, which is the body which provides them registration?
Central government, and there is also you can say central minority officer. Okay, so there is a constitutional provision, article 350B talks about, okay, minority provision, and also minority affairs, minority officer, welfare minority officer, but central government is responsible.